he must have looked like his father too.
Well, there's his picture up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a movie star.
Well, and he had a long nose, and as a matter of fact, my nose was supposed to take after him. And I didn't look anything like the Diggses. I looked like the Simmons.
Who did Uncle Jack look like?
More like the Diggses.
Because he put on a lot of... He was skinny as a rail when he was a kid, his pictures.
Yeah. And then he put on a lot of weight when he was in... and so then he was kind of stout. And he was never huge, but he was fattish. And
but we all thought he looked like Peter Lorre,
yeah,
the movie guy.
Yeah.
Why, he did get mistaken for him, didn't he?
huh?
Did he get mistaken for Peter Lorre, do you think?
Oh, I think so. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, actually, he was in Washington first, and he used to come over to Baltimore. I was married by that time. Come over to dinner.
Brought the Veladis.
Yeah, they'd bring the Veladis from Washington when he had enough money to. He didn't make much money as a Jesuit, and but he loved trains. And of course, he'd go down the station. He was 4 blocks away from the station at Gonzaga High School, which was Jesuit High School in Washington. And so he used to walk down to get the train to Baltimore. And he in fact he knew so much about trains. They used to invite him up in the engine.
Really?
Oh yeah, he used to go up in the engine and talk to them and would ride over in the engine over to Baltimore. And he was robbed one time going home, walking back to Gonzaga. St. Aloysius was the church, and he was walking back, and he was robbed, and they threw him to the ground and took his wallet, and he had $4.
How long did everybody take a month, and they met once a month?
They would, and I don't know how often they entertained, but they were all good. Well, I don't know that they were as good a cook as mother, because they took my mother's recipe for stuffed ham, and the children went to St. Cecilia. All the children went to St. Cecilia.
Okay.
That's how they all got together.
And you said Maya didn't like to eat, but she liked to cook.
That's right. I don't know how much she liked it, but she had to do it. And so she was a real good cook.
Do you have any favorite recipes that you had when you were a kid that you looked forward to having?
No, I have them all in there, of course. And you just ate what was put on the table. He used to eat that and potatoes, and that's all he ate.
All right, so when you got out of St. Agnes, you went to Mercy Hospital? They had a school for nurses, or how did that work?
Right away. No. I was a senior in high school. Regina had a job in a music store. And she was secretary to, it was called Howard, it must have been his first name. And it was a store on, not Lexington Street, but it was downtown. And it was the street up from that. anyhow, it was a music store. And she was secretary to the owner. And she didn't sell things. She was secretary to the owner. And he had poor eyesight. She had to do all the typing and all the background because his eyes had been ruined with gas in the war.
Wow. World War One then, right?
Mm-hmm. And he was blind. And so she used to do all his work. And that was her job.
Wow.
And then she entered the convent. So Howard comes in. I think his first name must have been Howard something.
And then you went to nursing school.
And I was just in I was in high school, a year behind her, and she was working. So she had a job, and so what was going to happen to me? Well, didn't have enough money to go to college, and so I was going to get a job somewhere. And so the oldest Diggs was Mary Diggs, married Dr. Sorrell, who was connected with Mercy. And so we always went to the doctor. We always went to him, of course. And he did general practitioner. And so he said, "How would you like to be a nurse?" And I said, "I don't care." All I would think about would probably be where was I going the next Saturday night. And so I said, "Oh, I might try it." And so my mother expected me to go there for 2 weeks and come home. And of course I loved it the first day. So there was no way I was coming home. And then I would get so excited about the things that would happen, and I'd come home and tell them I'd been to an autopsy. And my mother couldn't understand that I would come home and tell her I'd looked at dead people. That was against her principles. And and I'd tell her all these exciting things that happened. And I didn't tell her anything. Oh yeah, I had to tell her a lot about the doctor that I was interested in me. And I had to. But we used to have dates on different halls when I was on night duty, and we'd have a grand time talking. And I had a very good time for 3 years with him. And the reason that we had to talk about it was that he was Jewish. And my parents weren't too happy with that. But anyhow, they said, just don't get serious with him, that's all. So, and of course I wasn't. But at any rate, he finally, I would never go out with him. And he'd follow me around in a car at wherever I was. If I visited somebody or something, of the family, he would follow me and say, "I can drive you home," and I never got in the car with him. It was the dumbest thing. And but anyhow, we were very good friends. And so finally, he had been talking at his home about me, and I was invited to dinner. And I came home and I said, "You know, I've been invited to." His name was Theodore Schwartz, and his nickname was T. And So I said, I've been invited to T's house for Sunday dinner. And I said, I don't know what to do about it. And they said, well, we don't know what you should do either. So then they thought, and they said, well, I think you have to accept. And it's very wonderful of her to invite you to dinner. So that was fine. And so I went into the hospital the next day, and of course I said, it was lovely of you to invite. And he said, I am so embarrassed. He said, I told my mother that I was going to invite you to Sunday dinner, and he said, she said I couldn't come because I was Catholic. And of course the two of us laughed about it. I said, well, my parents wondered about it. And I said, but they told me to accept, and yours too. And we just thought it was the funniest thing ever. Biggest joke on both of us.
How old were you then?
19.
You were 9. How old was he?
He was 4 years old because they had been to college, of course. And they were, he probably was 4 to 6 years older.
Okay.
And, but it was the biggest joke of our whole association.
So the hospitals there were Mercy, Bon Secours, I guess Maryland and Hopkins. Oh, and then there was the one over
St. Joseph's.
Was that downtown too?
Yeah. I don't know where it was. Not funny. I think it was another name before that, before it was St. Joseph.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you, when Aunt Regina became a nun, she became a Mercy nun. Is the one was Ma's sister a Mercy nun too?
Yeah.
So that's really was St. Cecilia's Mercy nuns?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And with Aunt Regina, sister. When Sister Regina. She was Emily. Emily Diggs. And she used to room with my mother at home.
So this is Ma's sister you're talking about that became a Mercy nun. And her name was Emily?
Emily.
Okay.
And Dora. And they slept together, of course, and same as I did with my sister and with Regina. But anyhow, and she was frail. And she used to be nervous. And she couldn't sleep at night. And my mother used to, this is a story that she told us when it was much later. And she used to have to get up at nighttime and walk with her because she couldn't sleep. Because Emily couldn't sleep, and she would have to walk with her. And of course, I wouldn't know anything about how she felt about it, but